Hey everyone, and welcome to Easy English, the podcast that makes learning English, well, easy. I'm Liam.
And I'm Zoe.
We're so glad you're here with us today.
Today we're diving into a question I know has been on all our minds. To nap or not to nap?
That's right. We've got some really interesting research to share about napping and whether it's really good for us.
It turns out there's a lot more to napping than just closing your eyes for a few minutes.
Okay, let's unpack this.
All right.
We've all heard that getting a solid 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night is important, right? But what if we're also feeling that midday slump? Is a nap the answer?
That's the big question, isn't it? And to understand it, we need to think about how our bodies are naturally programmed to sleep.
So most of us try to get all our sleep in one big chunk at night.
Right. That's what scientists call monophasic sleep. Mono meaning one.
Makes sense. But what's interesting is that our bodies might actually be designed to sleep a bit differently.
Exactly. There's evidence to suggest that humans might be wired for biphasic sleep. That means two phases of sleep.
Like a longer sleep at night and a shorter nap during the day.
You got it. Think about that familiar afternoon slump we all experience, usually between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Your eyelids start to feel heavy. You might yawn a few times.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling well. Sometimes I even catch myself nodding off in meetings.
We've all been there. But here's the thing. You might think it's just because of a big lunch, but scientists have actually measured brain activity and found that there's a natural dip in alertness during the afternoon. It's like our brains are programmed to take a break.
So it's not just me being lazy after a burger and fries.
Not at all. This dip in alertness happens to most people, regardless of what they ate for lunch.
Wow, so it's like our brains are saying, time for a siesta.
Exactly. And many cultures around the world have embraced this biphasic sleep pattern with siestas or afternoon naps.
So if our bodies are naturally inclined to nap, does that mean napping is always a good thing? Or could it actually mess with our sleep?
That's where things get a little tricky. While naps can have some real benefits, they can also backfire if you're not careful.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about the potential downsides of napping.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that long naps, especially those taken in the afternoon or early evening, can actually interfere with your sleep at night.
Interesting. Is it kind of like when you snack too close to dinner and then you're not hungry for the main meal?
That's a great way to think about it. If you have trouble sleeping at night, it's probably best to skip the nap altogether. That way you build up enough sleepiness so you can fall asleep easily and stay asleep throughout the night.
That makes sense. So if someone's already struggling with sleep, they should probably avoid napping.
Exactly. But if you're generally a good sleeper, a short nap, say around 20 minutes, can actually be quite beneficial, especially if you take it earlier in the day.
So short and sweet is the key. Get in, get out, and get on with your day.
Precisely. Now, to understand why this is, let's dig into the science of sleep a bit. Did you know there are actually 4 stages of sleep?
4 stages? Really? I had no idea.
It's true. And the benefits you get from a nap depend on which of these stages you reach.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Break it down for me. What are these 4 stages all about?
Well, let's start with the first 2 stages, which are the lighter stages of sleep. A typical 30-minute nap will usually only allow you to enter these stages.
So what's going on in our brains during those lighter stages?
In stage 1, your body and mind are just beginning to relax. Your breathing slows down, your muscles loosen up, and your brain waves start to slow down as well.
It's that feeling where you're not quite asleep but not quite awake either, right?
Exactly. And then as you transition into stage 2, your brain starts to block out external distractions and focus on rest and restoration.
So even though it's still light sleep, our brains are actually hard at work preparing for deeper sleep.
That's right. And during this stage, your brain also starts to process information and memories from the day.
So even a short nap can help us learn and remember things better.
That's what the research suggests. And when you wake up from these lighter stages, you usually feel more alert, refreshed, and focused. You might even notice an improvement in your mood and creativity.
Sounds like a win-win. But you mentioned that longer naps can be a problem. What happens if we drift off for longer than 30 minutes?
Well, that's when you enter the deeper stages of sleep stages 3 and 4. And while these stages are essential for feeling truly rested and rejuvenated, waking up from them in the middle of the day can leave you feeling groggy and disoriented.
Oh, that explains why I sometimes feel worse after a nap. It's like my brain is stuck in slow motion.
Exactly. That groggy feeling is called sleep inertia, and it's a common side effect of waking up from deep sleep.
So it sounds like the trick is to keep your naps short and sweet, sticking to those lighter stages of sleep.
You got it. A well-timed 20-minute power nap can be like a shot of espresso for your brain, leaving you feeling energized and ready to tackle the rest of your day.
This is all so fascinating. I'm starting to rethink my own napping strategy.
And you know what's even more interesting? In some cultures, napping is taken so seriously that they have special nap salons.
Nap salons. That's amazing. Tell me more.
Yes. For example, in Japan, some companies have dedicated nap rooms where employees can take short naps during their lunch break.
Wow, they've really embraced the power of the nap. Maybe it's time we all started taking a cue from them and incorporating strategic napping into our daily routines.
I think so. It's all about finding what works best for you and listening to your body's cues.
This has been a truly eye-opening deep dive into the world of napping.
Me too. And
Oh.
we hope you are as well.
I think I might just have to try out a strategic power nap later today. Maybe under my desk.
I might join you. We'll have to compare notes and see how it goes.
Great idea. We'll report back on our napping adventures. Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll explore even more fascinating facts and tips about the art of napping.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of napping.
That's right, we're back for more napping fun. Before the break, we talked about how napping can actually be good for us and even improve our brains.
Yes, we explored the science behind sleep stages and how those short power naps can leave you feeling refreshed and more focused.
But I'm curious, is there anyone who shouldn't be napping?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, if you're someone who already has trouble sleeping at night, napping can actually make things worse. It's like you're borrowing sleep from your nighttime bank account and then struggling to pay it back later.
Makes sense. So no napping for the sleep-deprived folks.
Right. But there's another group of people we should talk about. Those who work night shifts or have irregular sleep schedules.
Yes. Their internal clocks are all out of whack. So is napping a good idea for them?
For them, strategic napping can be even more crucial.
Why is that?
Well, if you're working through the night when your body is naturally programmed to be asleep, you're basically fighting against your own biology.
They're like superheroes battling against the forces of sleepiness.
Exactly. And napping can be their secret weapon. It can help them catch up on sleep, reduce fatigue, and improve alertness during those challenging nighttime hours.
So it's like a mini recharge to keep going strong.
Precisely. But even for night shift workers, it's still important to keep those naps short and strategically timed to avoid disrupting their already fragmented sleep patterns.
Okay, that makes sense. So whether you're a night owl or a daylark, napping can be beneficial as long as you do it right.
Absolutely. But you know, it's funny you should mention larks and owls because our napping tendencies might actually be influenced by our chronotypes.
Chronotypes, what are those?
It's basically your natural inclination to sleep and wake up at certain times. Some people are naturally early risers, those are the larks, while others prefer to stay up late and sleep in, those are the owls.
Like a biological night owl.
Mm.
I definitely identify as an owl.
Me too. And research suggests that our chronotypes can play a role in how well we respond to napping.
Really? Tell me more about that.
Well, it seems that early birds, the larks, tend to get sleepier earlier in the day, so they might benefit more from a nap in the early afternoon.
While the night owls like us might prefer a slightly later nap.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works best for your individual body clock.
This is making me realize that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to napping.
You're absolutely right. What works for one person might not work for another. The key is to experiment a bit, pay attention to your body's cues, and find what feels best for you.
It's all about listening to your inner sleep guru.
Exactly. And you know, there are even some fascinating historical examples of famous nappers.
Ooh, I love a good historical anecdote. Spill the tea.
One of the most famous nappers was Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister during World War II.
I never pictured him as a napper.
He was adamant about his afternoon naps, claiming they were essential for maintaining his energy and focus during those incredibly stressful wartime years. He even had a special room built just for napping.
A dedicated nap room. That's some serious commitment to the power of napping.
Right. And another famous napper was Leonardo da Vinci, the brilliant artist, inventor, and all-around Renaissance man.
Da Vinci, the original multitasker.
He was known to follow a polyphasic sleep schedule, which means he took multiple short naps throughout the day and night instead of one long sleep.
So he was basically a power napping pro.
You could say that.
Right.
And it clearly didn't hinder his creativity or productivity. He managed to paint the Mona Lisa and invent flying machines, all while catching those power naps.
Maybe that's the secret to his genius. I'm starting to think these historical figures were onto something.
I think so, too. They seem to understand that sometimes a little shut-eye can go a long way in enhancing your performance both mentally and physically.
So what does this all mean for us, the non-historical figures of the modern world. Should we all be striving to become power nappers?
I think it's less about striving and more about recognizing that napping is a perfectly natural and healthy behavior.
It's not something to be ashamed of or to hide.
Exactly. It's simply a way to give our brains and bodies a little break, a chance to recharge and reset.
And as we've learned, it can have some pretty remarkable benefits for our cognitive function, memory, and even creativity.
Right. It's like hitting the refresh button on your brain, giving you a boost of energy and focus to tackle the rest of your day.
This is making me excited to try out some strategic napping in my own life. Maybe I'll even designate a special napping corner in my apartment.
I might join you. But before we all drift off to dreamland, let's talk about some tips for making your naps even more effective.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are your expert napping tips?
Well, first and foremost, timing is everything. As we discussed earlier, the ideal time for a nap is typically in the early afternoon, sometime between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m.
Why that specific time frame?
Well, that's when most people experience that natural dip in alertness thanks to our circadian rhythm, that internal clock that regulates our sleep-wake cycle.
It's like working with your body's natural rhythm instead of fighting against it.
Exactly. By taking a nap during this window, you're essentially taking advantage of your body's natural inclination to rest.
Smart.
Yep.
So it's not just about choosing any random time. It's about aligning your nap with your body's natural sleep cues.
Precisely. Now, another important tip is to create a conducive sleep environment.
By conducive, you mean?
Think dark, quiet, and cool.
The sleep trifecta.
Exactly. Dim the lights, block out any noise, and find a cool, comfortable spot.
I can already feel my eyelids getting heavy just thinking about it.
And, of course, the golden rule of napping is to set a timer.
Right. We don't want to oversleep and end up feeling groggy.
Exactly. Aim for a 20-minute power nap. That's the sweet spot for reaping the benefits of a nap without feeling like you've been hit by a sleep truck afterward.
Okay, so we've covered timing, environment, and duration. What else should we keep in mind when it comes to napping?
Well, this might sound obvious, but make sure you're actually sleepy before you try to nap.
What do you mean?
Well, some people try to force themselves to nap even when they're not truly tired.
I see. It's like trying to cram for a test when you're not in the mood to study.
Exactly. And if you're not genuinely sleepy, lying in bed and trying to force sleep can actually lead to more frustration and anxiety.
And that can just make it harder to fall asleep later on.
Right. So if you find yourself tossing and turning, don't be afraid to get out of bed and do something else until you feel those sleepy signals kicking in.
So it's all about being in tune with your body and recognizing those natural sleep cues.
Precisely. And remember, napping isn't a sign of laziness or weakness. It's actually a smart strategy for improving your energy focus and overall well-being.
I love that reframing. Napping is self-care.
Exactly. It's like giving your brain a spa day.
So to wrap things up, it seems like napping can be a powerful tool for anyone as long as you understand the do's and don'ts and find what works best for you.
You got it. Listen to your body experiments a bit, and don't be afraid to break the mold if traditional napping doesn't suit your style.
Well said. I think we've officially cracked the code of napping.
I think so too, and we only scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore when it comes to the fascinating world of sleep.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve even deeper into the science and culture of napping. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring all things napping, from the science of sleep stages to tips for crafting the perfect power nap.
And we've even uncovered some fascinating historical examples of famous nappers like Winston Churchill and Leonardo da Vinci.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more group of people we haven't talked about, those who struggled to nap.
Ah, yes. The nap-resistant folks. They hear all about the benefits. They set the timer dim, the lights get comfy, and then nothing.
They just lie there staring at the ceiling wide awake.
Exactly. And for those people, forcing themselves to nap can be counterproductive.
How so?
Well, if you're not truly sleepy, lying in bed and trying to force sleep can actually lead to frustration and anxiety.
And that just makes it harder to fall asleep both during the nap and later at night, right?
Exactly. So if you're someone who struggles to nap, don't beat yourself up about it. It's perfectly okay to be a non-napper.
It's like some people are marathon runners and others are sprinters. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses.
I love that analogy. And if napping isn't your thing, there are plenty of other ways to recharge and boost your energy levels throughout the day.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give us some alternatives to napping.
Well, one of the simplest and most effective strategies is to simply take a break.
Just step away from your work or whatever you're doing and give your mind a rest.
Exactly. Go for a walk, listen to some music, meditate for a few minutes, anything that helps you relax and clear your head.
So it's like a mini vacation for your mind.
Precisely. Even 5 or 10 minutes of downtime can make a huge difference in how you feel. And if you're feeling sluggish, a brisk walk can really get your blood pumping and wake you up.
That's a great point. Physical activity is a fantastic way to combat fatigue and boost your energy levels.
Right. It all comes back to listening to your body.
So we've learned that napping can be a powerful tool, but it's not the only tool. The key is to find what works best for you, whether it's a power nap, a brisk walk, or simply taking a few moments to breathe and relax.
I completely agree, and I think that's a great note to end on. Listen to your body, experiment with different strategies, and don't be afraid to break the mold if traditional napping doesn't suit your style.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the science of sleep stages to the cultural significance of napping, to tips for optimizing your own nap routine.
We've explored the benefits, the drawbacks, and even the alternatives to napping.
And we've learned that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to rest and rejuvenation.
Whether you're a power napper, a non-napper, or somewhere in between, the most important thing is to pay attention to your body's cues and find what helps you feel your best.
That's some wise advice. I'm feeling inspired to reevaluate my own sleep habits and see how I can incorporate some of these strategies into my daily routine.
Me too. And remember, sleep is a precious gift, so treat it with respect and listen to your body's whispers.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of napping.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about this fascinating and often overlooked aspect of our lives.
And we encourage you to experiment, explore, and find what works best for you on your own sleep journey.
Sweet dreams, everyone.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.